Okay, hello, welcome back to Zoink TV. I'm Andrew Weir, and today we're going to do some character creation on Blender 2.65, which I've already mentioned that we've done this before, and I've already mentioned that this mesh here is from Blender Cookie, although if you have got your own male or female mesh, probably best to use that one because I'm going to try and generalize the tutorial so that you can create the clothing you want for your character. But if you haven't got this, the link's also in the description as well as the playlist link, which will take you to a playlist of all the character creation videos that I've made. But instead of explaining all that again, I'm just going to get straight to cleaning this up a little bit because obviously the Blender Cookie set out here has been just to show us my rights of using this and so on. So I'm going to join that area, get rid of that. They've also got this quite small and zoomed in, so I'm going to zoom out so it looks a little bit more normal, and we don't need that much room there either. But since you're probably a beginner, you haven't done character creation before, you probably don't know a lot of tools. So I'm going to mention as many tools as possible just to get all that knowledge out of the way so that you can then move away, create whatever you wanted, and hopefully have a good knowledge of character creation. So what we're going to do is going to move this origin right here. I've already done a video on this, and if I press Shift Alt Control and C, as it says there, then we get this option here to move the origin to the geometry, but it doesn't move it because this is the center of the geometry. So what we need to do is go into edit mode, and I would prefer the origin point to be more in the center of this character, or maybe even at the bottom of his feet if you wanted it to be, but I'm just going to go for the center of the character for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this entire ring loop by pressing Shift and Alt, which means that this little point here is at the center of all the stuff that I've got selected, which means that I can then press Shift S. Again, I'm saying that I'm going to mention a lot of tools here, maybe not the most useful for the moment, but you'll find them more useful in the future. So Shift S, and that'll snap the cursor around. We want to snap the cursor to selected, which is going to bring that little red and white checkered circle, which you get from clicking, left-clicking about the screen. It's going to bring it to that point there, which is another point. And that's a lot of points, and we're going to bring the little part down here up into that area there. So that's the origin up to the cursor. So to do that, yeah, again, I'm going to press Shift, Control, Alt, C, and I want to move the origin to the 3D cursor, which means that now when I'm rotating from that point there. Not the most useful thing ever for this character, it's just I would prefer it to be in the center of his body rather than the center of his legs, or maybe you could put it down to the bottom of his feet, which might be a little bit more useful. But I'll keep it where it is for now, and that's just a few little useful things to use. We're going to need to go back into into edit mode even on this character just to actually create the t-shirt. So what we're doing is we're going to duplicate from this because the t-shirt is pretty close to the body. Unlike a coat, you might want to create that in a different way. Or shoes, they're not close enough to the body, they've got a little bit more shape in them. So you might want to create them from just a cube. But since we're working with a t-shirt and trousers, we can literally just go and select the areas we want. I'm going to use Shift and Alt to click the ring loops. If we just click not at the vertices or vertexes, we want to select in the edge, which means that it'll do it horizontally or vertically depending on what edge you've just got it selected on. So I'm going to select all the horizontal edges until we reach a little bit too high, where if I clicked this one, it's worked it out not to go any further, but if I did click this one here, it goes all the way down the arm. So we're just quickly selecting the areas that we can without taking it too far. So let's keep going down them. And you can see we've almost got the whole t-shirt area, maybe a little bit too high at the moment, so I'm going to go down here. And if by the end of it that is too high, which it might be, we can just model that back into shape because we've got the basic outline of our of what we want. I'm going to select this vertical one here and that one. Not this one because it's going to go all... oh, it didn't, but if you have that on your mesh, it might go all the way down his leg, which is not what we want, but that's worked quite well. I'm going to select this one on its own by pressing Shift and click. There's just a few odd faces in there. We could use circle select or box select or loop select, but if you're fast at clicking, then this way isn't too bad, and we're just going to get the right areas precisely. So under his arm there, I could just press C and get circle select up and just, you know, select the whole area that I didn't have selected. But I've got the areas that I want selected for my t-shirt right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift D, and we're literally just pulling the t-shirt away like that. Then I'm going to right click so that it's right back to where I duplicated it from, which means that if I go to Object Mode, it's completely or almost completely invisible because we haven't moved it away from the mesh. So what we want to do with this is we want to separate it so we can edit it individually without selecting any other vertexes that we don't want. To do that, we're going to press P on its own, and that's the separate tool. So we're going to separate by separate the selection, and that's going to bring up this red outline on the t-shirt we just had selected, and you'll notice that the rest of what we had selected is just gone from the view. Go into Object Mode, select the area where you've just separated that t-shirt, and there you go, you've got it in Object Mode right there. And also we'll notice that the origin point, if I hide this by pressing H, not J, if I hide this body here by pressing H, we can see that the origin point is roughly in the center as well. So that's why it was good to move it higher up, but that does mean that on the jeans the origin point is going to be high up as well. So we can edit this individually. I'm going to press Alt H just to bring that back, and I'm going to select this here. So I've had a few suggestions in my previous video of what I should be doing and how I should do things, because my old video wasn't perfect, although it did help out beginners, and one of them was to scale in the normals. So now that I'm a little bit more advanced, I know how to do this, and if you don't know what a normal is, then we can just go to the mesh display here on the sidebar, display the face normals, and we'll see that they're all pointing outwards. Basically it's to do with texturing and things, and they need to be pointing outwards for it to be visible in a game engine, and it also causes a few more problems if they're facing in different directions. So they've got to be all facing outwards, but the fact that they are all facing outwards individually from their faces means that we can scale along them. So just like you would scale along the X, Y or Z axis, we're scaling along the normals individually, which means it's going all outwards. To do that, we're going to press Alt S to scale, and we can see that kind of effect that it has. Eventually, if I scale it just a little bit, so we're going to make sure that it's a fair amount above, just so it's visibly above. Go into Object Mode to check that. It's probably enough for me, but we can see that at points like this area here, we see that a lot of it's gone inside, or it's a little bit messy around the area, maybe not too bad. So we could go into Wireframe. I think it's just this one, let's see the other one out, and if we move that inwards we can see that that's a little bit better. But what we can do, if I just check how many vertexes are in that area, it's only really about those two. So what I'm going to press is I'm going to merge them together into one, because they're so close together that they may as well just be one vertex. So we're going to press Alt M to merge, and we're going to bring it at the center of those two. So let's take that into Object Mode, not Object Mode, sorry. Let's take that out of Wireframe by pressing Z again, and let's see if that's fixed any problems. I think that that is the mesh coming through now because I've edited it a little bit, so I'm going to move that downwards and just, into a better position so that we don't see any mesh of the human character underneath the arm. And since I've done that on that side, I may as well actually just mirror this rather than doing everything again on the other side. Although that was very basic, we may as well mirror it anyway. And mirroring is very important for character creation because mostly your human character is going to be symmetrical until you get to the finer details. So I'm going to delete these vertices by using box select. You can see everything that I'm pressing down there. And we've deleted exactly half of our mesh. We can see that that doesn't look too right there. That's going to need fixing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press onto the modifiers. We can do this in edit mode, although we can't apply it in edit mode. And I'm going to go to the mirror modifier. So that's worked out that I want it on that axis, but if it's gone wrong for you, then go to the axis setting here, change which axis you want reflected in, and hopefully you'll find one that works. And another thing to mention is that the actual reflection is from this origin point here. So, since my origin point is in the middle on the x-axis, it's reflected it exactly from the center, which is what we want. But if your origin point hasn't been moved, then it's going to be way off. So that's just a few things to look out for. This did look a little bit messed up. I think that's just how we're viewing it in edit mode. Maybe it is a little bit too close to our mesh, in which case I'm going to select the entire thing and maybe just scale it on the y-axis just a little bit more than it is already. And then just to hide the fact that it's so far away, I can bring this one in on the y-axis by scaling on the y-axis. And then this is obviously not how the t-shirt should be shaped. If I give this a material, a basic material, which it's already got, we can see that if I take it into, if I turn it red, or if I press the little 2 button here, and I change this to red, now we can see the t-shirt a lot better, but that is obviously a very bright colour, so I'm just going to bring it down closer to the grey. That's a good colour, just because I don't want it to be very bright because I'm working on it. And what we're doing is we can go into edit mode. We can definitely see the difference of how far away this is now, and it's not noticeably far away, but what we might want to do is straighten out this edge here, because a lot of t-shirts are straight. Maybe they obviously get a lot more folded at the bottom towards the trousers. So what I'm going to do is scale this on the z-axis until we reach center point. Then of course that's bring them into different positions on the mesh, meaning the parts are going through. So we're going to need to just straighten this out a little bit more, maybe scaling it back on the y-axis and then bringing it backwards and scaling on the y-axis again, bringing it until we get to a good position. Looks okay to me. I don't really like how that goes straight into his back, so I might want to straighten that out as well. Maybe just grabbing the entire ring loop there and scaling on the y-axis just a little bit, but not too much. So I'm going to bring it in. Obviously it's going through on that area there, which means we just have to bring it back. And if I've gone too far here, then it will be slightly wrong shape, but no, it's okay. And maybe I'll just bring that one back in, since that looks a little bit better that way. And just so it's not so sharp, I'll bring that one in too. So we haven't done anything too advanced yet. As I mentioned before, we've literally just copied it from the previous mesh, and if we do go into object mode, what we're going to want to do with this character, if we're in animation, or maybe you want to do this in the game as well, we can subdivide the character there, getting a little bit more detailed, and obviously we need to subdivide the t-shirt as well, which means this looks a little bit better now. Obviously the back of the back here looks a lot better. It's not got the big curve in it, and the front is obviously okay as well. So that's a basic t-shirt created, and I spent ages doing that in my previous tutorial. But obviously a t-shirt isn't going to be this perfect. So what we're going to want to do is maybe add a few more folds in the bottom of the t-shirt here. I think the top of the t-shirt is probably okay, in fact, but a t-shirt generally isn't going to be this visible, and this guy has a massive neck, so I'm not too sure if you want the actual neck here to be that big, but we're going to focus on the bottom of the t-shirt being more folded than the top, even though in a real creation, if we did render this and we had a t-shirt, the t-shirt's going to probably be broken up by things like belts, and you know, you want more clothing on your character than just a basic t-shirt and trousers. So we're going to get a little bit more advanced on this t-shirt, and I'm still going to keep the mirror modifier on because when I'm editing this I'll make it the same on both sides, and then I'll obviously get into the little bit more different folds later on. And so I kind of want maybe another ring loop in there in the middle here, and I want that just to be a little bit scaled up, like it's hit the bottom of the to where the trousers are, and then it's probably maybe tucked in which case you've got more t-shirt there than is needed. So I don't know, I'm kind of just making this up, but that does make it look a little bit better. And obviously we're going to want more folds in the clothing. So I've got a tutorial on how to make folds, but we may as well do it now. We're going to use the cutting tool, and let's say we want some more folds towards the bottom here. Maybe I'd bring it along here and around the side. And when you are cutting, we'll notice that now I've created just a little bit of B-mesh in here, meaning that we've got too many edges there. You might want to fix that just by bringing it to the next vertex along. And if we remember where this was, we know that it's along the side there. What we can do is we can go into Sculpt Mode, hoping you're familiar with the basic Sculpt Mode, and we can just quickly remember where that cut was and just bring up the side there so that it's a little bit above the rest. And because it's mirrored, it maybe looks a little bit weird. So what we can do is we can go to edit mode again. I'm going to actually go into object mode and apply this now in the right order. So I think that if I apply this, it should be okay. And then I'm going to go back into edit mode and we'll edit both sides individually. And since I have mirrored it, and that's kind of what I was planning, what I'm going to do is instead of it being exactly symmetrical, I'm going to select anything that I've just done, and I'm going to just bring it down on this one here, maybe rotating it a little bit, just so it doesn't look completely the same as the rest. And obviously that's messed that one up just a little bit, so there we go. So I'm going to cut again, and I did notice on the back that I've got a little bit more B-mesh made by a cut similar to this one down here. We've got 5 vertexes to that one face there. It doesn't matter within Blender, but if you want to move it anywhere else, it will affect the software, so you might not want to do that. And I'm going to bring it to this vertex up here, since we can bring out that one as well. And we could maybe even just use proportional editing. So again, you don't need to use Sculpt Mode, we can use proportional editing if you really want to, or we can use nothing at all and just bring it out. But obviously we might not want it to be so sharp. So I'm going to actually bring that one in, and I'm going to select these ones and bring them out. So I hope you're getting the gist here. I've just modelled it a little bit so that we've got more folds in the bottom there, and with clothing that's not going to look too bad. So, you know, keep going with that. Obviously don't add too many, and place them, if you look at real clothing, place them a little bit more accurately to where real folds in clothing would be. It will look a lot better than just the basic straight t-shirt. And so that's all I have to say for the t-shirt creation. Thank you for watching so far. We're going to move on to the trouser creation next. I'll see you in the next video.